Okay, let's answer first question. I get these questions from Pearson from the testing website, so these are the sample questions. Um, the first question is, which of the following activities best helps develop oral language proficiency for English language learners speaking an intermediate level of English language proficiency? Very wordy. We're going to have to read it a couple of times just to construct the true question. So I would just read it twice. Which of the following activities, so we know we're looking for an activity, best helps develop oral language proficiency? So we're developing oral language proficiency for English language learners speaking at an intermediate level of English language proficiency. So the level is important. It's important to know we're developing oral language proficiency and that these English language learners are at intermediate level. And we're also looking for an activity. So first, let's make sure they're all activities, because that's our first clue. Having conversation with a teacher, that's an activity. Answering comprehension questions in class, yes, I'd call that an activity. Writing narrative stories in English and viewing dramatic TV shows. So they all qualify, and we're not helped by the word activity in and of itself, so that didn't really do much for us. But which of these develop oral language proficiency? And right off the bat, answer C comes to mind. Writing narrative stories in English is not an oral activity. Viewing dramatic television shows is really not an oral activity either. It is verbal in that you're listening, but it is not. It's less an activity and it's not really oral. So it's not really meeting the full complement of those definitions, especially when you have two having conversations and answering comprehension questions in class, both oral activities. Although I will say that this could be written, and they chose not to designate it as written. So that's kind of a red flag for me. If I come down to these two answers and they feel like they're equally correct at the end of this, then I'm probably not going to pick B because it's not stated that it is oral, whereas having a conversation is an oral activity for sure. So we're developing oral language proficiency for people speaking at an intermediate level. It's helpful to understand Bloom's taxonomy in this case. And frankly, I'm going to take the Bloom's chart, there's 6 levels of thinking skills here. And we have a division right there. We have low-level thinking skills on that side of it and high-level thinking skills on that side of it. The first area in high level is application. And I'm going to say that application is we'll say an activity that is at the application level of Bloom's is going to make the most sense for an intermediate level person or English language learner. So we're looking which of these would be considered, back to Bloom's, an application level. An application level. Okay? Answering comprehension questions in class is actually an evaluation. That is an assessment. The student is assessing the students actually to determine what activities they should do to develop the oral language that they haven't developed yet. So having conversations with the teacher is more of a development activity, so I'm going to go with that. If we look at our answer, A is correct, and yes, I did know it, but I did get it correct the first time I did it as well. A is correct because social interactions and standard English are critical to oral language development in ELLs. B is incorrect because answering simple, which they added the word simple, and I hate it when they do that because they need to have simple comprehension questions on the question if they're going to have it in the answer. Simple comprehension questions does not give the ELL the opportunity to practice conversational proficiency. So I'm guessing they mean that these simple comprehension questions, they either are written, but they're not conversational. C is incorrect because writing skills do not necessarily translate to oral proficiency, so writing has nothing to do with it. D is incorrect because watching TV gives the student an opportunity to listen but not to practice speaking it. It's not conversational. So I guess the answer lies with it being conversational, which they didn't put in the question, but we still got it correct, so we'll take a point.